Hi and welcome to my channel. My name is Krista from Spirit and Thread, and today I am going to crochet this cute halter summer top with you. It's pretty beginner friendly. It's mostly double crochets and chain stitches, a few single crochets and triple crochets, but it comes together really well and it's mostly made to fit, so it can be fit to perfectly wear around your body. Let's get started. For this pattern, you're going to need a tapestry needle and scissors. A dress form could be helpful. It's optional, but it would really help if you have a dress form. And then a 4mm hook and size 3 or 4 yarn. I prefer working with cotton or cotton blends. This is from We Crochet. I'll have this linked in the description below. You're going to begin at what will become the top of your bralette cup at the collarbone. So I'm going to chain 2. That counts as my first row. Now I'm going to begin the second row where I chain 2 more. This counts as the first double crochet, and I'm going to add 2 more double crochets into the third chain from my hook. So row 2 has a total of 3 double crochets. I'm going to chain 2 and turn my work. This starting chain 2 counts as a double crochet. In the middle stitch, I'm going to make a shell, which is 2 double crochets, 1 chain, and 2 more double crochets into the same stitch. And we're going to be using that pattern for shells throughout this entire top. So I have a double crochet, a shell, and in the final stitch, the top of this chain 2 here, I'm going to place a double crochet. Those are my first 3 rows. The way these cups are going to work is we're creating a flat side here with no increasing or decreasing, and then we are increasing and decreasing on this side. So we're at row 3 right now. We're going to begin increasing on this edge here. And to do that, we're going to begin by chaining 2. That counts as our first double crochet. In the chain 1 of our shell, we're going to create another shell. So that is 2 double crochets, 1 chain, and 2 more double crochets into that chain 1. Then we are going to double crochet into the top of this chain 2, that first double crochet from our previous row. Place a double crochet on top of that. And now we're going to begin increasing. So to do that, at the end of this row, I'm going to chain 5. And this counts as an increase of 3 plus a chain 2 that becomes my first double crochet. So when I turn my work, I have my double crochet and 3 more chains. In the 4th chain from my hook, I'm going to create a shell. So 1, 2, 3, 4 into this stitch. I'm going to place 2 double crochet, 1 chain, and 2 more double crochet. And you'll see that just increased on this side of my project. And now I'm going to kind of repeat the steps across these stitches here. Place a double crochet on top of each double crochet. Place a shell into the chain 1 of each shell. And double crochet into my final double crochet. Here's how it's going to look as we add increases onto just one side. This side's going to remain flat. So I'm going to chain 2. That counts as my first double crochet. Turn my work. And now I'm going to place a shell into the chain 1 of my first shell. Double crochet into each lone double crochet. I have another shell now because I just increased. So I'm placing a shell on top of that. And then double crochet into my final double crochet here, which is the chain 2 from the previous row. Place a double crochet into that second chain. Here's how that's looking so far, but we're going to increase again on this side. So I'll show you how to do those steps one more time. We're going to chain 5 and turn our work. In the fourth stitch, the fourth chain from our hook, we're going to place a shell. So that's 2 double crochet, 1 chain, 2 double crochet. Into the first double crochet from my previous row, I'm going to place a double crochet. And then in each shell and lone double crochet across, we're going to just repeat those same stitches. So I'm placing a shell inside the chain 1 of the shell from my previous row, double crochet into the lone double crochet. I'm shelling into this shell stitch and then double crochet into my final double crochet. So these rows we're going to repeat to continue creating our increase on this edge and a flat side on this edge. And how this is going to look will be like this. Here's the start. So I have my flat edge, I have my increasing edge, and you can see this taking shape here. We're going to increase until when you lay your project on top of you or on top of the dress form, it reaches about midway across your bust. So you want the longest part of your top here to be the middle of your bust. Then we're going to begin decreasing. So continue adding increase rows until you reach that midpoint of your bust. For me, that was a total of 15 rows. It might be different depending on your size. But you're going to repeat these rows that we just created until you reach that point in your project. So here's what I mean by the midpoint of your bust. You can see the widest point of my project is at this midline here. And then we'll begin our decrease rows. I want to share a few sizing options in case you find that the slope is increasing too quickly for the length of your torso. It's getting too wide too soon. Or if you find that it's not getting wide enough fast enough to cover your bust. And this will just depend on your bust size relative to your torso length. So if you find that it's getting too wide too fast for the length of your torso, maybe you have a shorter torso or a smaller bust, then I would recommend not increasing in this on this side of the increasing slope. And to do that, you would just chain 2. That counts as your first double crochet, and then go right into placing a shell here. You'd be keeping this row length constant, maybe doing that for every other row for a few rows so that you're decreasing the gradient of this slope. If you're finding that your project is not getting wide fast enough, maybe you have a shorter torso, maybe you have a bigger bust, then you might want to increase by chaining more than 5. So to do that, you're going to chain 9. And this allows for enough space here on this increase to add 2 more sets of shells and double crochets. I'll show you how to do it. So you're still going to place a shell into the 4th stitch from your hook. Then you're going to skip 1, and in the next stitch, place a double crochet. Skip 1, in the next stitch, place a shell. And then in your first double crochet, and continue your steps as we've previously shown here. That adds a bigger increase here to make the slope more intense for a larger increase to get your top wider to cover more of your bust. I just need the chain 5, so I'm gonna take out back to here. And this is my final increasing row. So I chained 5, turning my work. In the 4th chain from my hook, I'm going to place a shell. Going to skip 1 and then double crochet into the first double crochet here. Place a shell stitch into the chain one of my next shell and continue that across this row. You want your final row of this increasing section to be a row across your chains and then ending on your flat edge. I will show you how to pick up from here and begin your constant rows and then your decreasing rows. So I want us to keep track of where we're going here. We've reached the longest point, which will be the widest part of my bralette cup across my bust and around my back. This doesn't have to reach all the way around your back, but it will start to wrap around your back. And now I'm going to add a couple of constant rows to create a flat edge here, where I'm going to be able to weave my waistband straps through to secure this around my back. So we're going to add a couple of constant rows. To do that, we're going to repeat the steps that we've already discussed with a double crochet in each double crochet and a shell in each shell across, and then we are not going to chain 5 at the end. I'm finishing up this row by placing my final shell and then my final double crochet. And now normally at this point I would increase by chaining 5. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to chain 2, turn my work, and go right into my next shell here. And again, we're doing this because we want to create a flat edge on the side where we can weave our waistband straps through to secure this around our back. So go ahead and finish this row as usual with the shell in each shell and a double crochet in each double crochet. I'm finishing up this row with my final shell and then my final double crochet into my final stitch. So that's just a flat constant row, no increasing or decreasing on either side. And now I'm going to begin decreasing on this side. So let's check our progress. We have our flat edge that's going to be between our bust. Then we have this flat edge that's going to be wrapping around our back. And now we want to decrease to create an angle to the point where our bralette cups are going to meet. This is going to be by your waist here. These will be up by your collarbone. So we're going to begin decreasing. And our decrease rows are going to start how our other rows have begun, with a double crochet in each double crochet and a shell in each shell. But it's going to differ at the end of our row when we have one shell stitch and one double crochet remaining. So go ahead and place your stitches across here, stopping after you place a shell in this second to last shell. I just placed a shell in my second to last shell here, and normally I would double crochet, shell, double crochet. Instead, I'm going to skip my next lone double crochet, and I'm going to double crochet into the chain 1 of my final shell. And you'll see this decreases by skipping these final 2 stitches here and creating a nice gentle slope. Now we're going to create another constant row, going back toward our flat edge, and to do that we'll chain 2, turn our work, and as usual we're going to place a shell in each shell and a double crochet in each double crochet. Repeat that across. And here is how this next row is going to look. You can see we're beginning this decrease slope. I'm going to demonstrate those 2 decrease rows one more time for you. So you begin how you begin all of your rows, double crocheting in each double crochet and placing a shell in each shell, but you're going to place your final shell in your second to last shell stitch here. I'm placing my last shell stitch in my second to last shell in the previous row. I'm going to skip this double crochet and double crochet into this last shell, the chain 1. So there's my next decrease row. And then I'm going to add another constant row with a chain 2, counts as my first double crochet, and then shell stitch in each shell and double crochet in each double crochet. You're going to repeat that until you have just one double crochet, shell, double crochet set remaining. We're getting close now. I have 2 sets of shells remaining. So I'm going to create my final constant row here. And after this row, I'll be placing my last decreasing row. So I'm chaining 2, placing a shell into my first shell stitch, skipping this double crochet, and I'm placing a double crochet into this chain 1. And that is my final decrease row. So let's compare to our finished side here. All we have remaining is this finishing row to create our final point. So for this row, I'm going to chain 2. That counts as my first double crochet. In the chain 1 of my shell, I'm going to double crochet, triple crochet, chain 1, triple crochet, and double crochet. That creates this nice refined point. Then I'm going to chain 2 and slip stitch into the top of this double crochet here. And there it is. Now I'm going to add a border row. So to do this, we're going to turn our work to work along this long flat edge. And in each row here, I'll begin by chaining 1. And then in each double crochet row along this edge, I'm going to place 2 single crochets. I'm getting close to the end of this edge. In my original row 2, where I placed these 3 double crochet, make sure you place 2 single crochets into that double crochet. And then these were our starting chain 2s. In each of those, place a single crochet. And then in this very top chain, we're going to place 2 more single crochet to wrap around this chain and begin working on the other side. So there are a total of 3 in this point. Then I'm going to make sure I single crochet in the next chain, and then 2 single crochet in each of these double crochet rows along the side. Now soon we're going to approach the spaces where we increased. You're going to continue to place 2 single crochet per double crochet. Or per chain 2, depending on which row it is. So it's still just 2 in each of these spaces here. Here's a space, here's a space, here's a space, here's a space. And you'll see as you work, this kind of flattens out this edge and makes it pretty. And we still have 1 more round of single crochet to go when we connect our 2 tops. And that'll make it even flatter of an edge. But for now, this is a great start to even out these bumps. So continue to place 2 single crochet per double crochet or chain 2 along this increasing edge. And soon we're going to approach the edge of our constant rows, which is going to become the side of our waistband where we will corset tie the 2 sides of our top together. So you can see this is our 3 flat rows right here, these shells. So I'm going to place 2 single crochet into these 2 chains here, and in this chain I'm going to place 3 single crochets to create a bit of a corner. Turn our work to work along this very short flat edge. I'm going to place 2 more single crochets in this corner, 2 single crochets into this double crochet row, 2 single crochets into this space, and then into this chain I'm going to place 3 more single crochet to create my next corner. You'll see that helped me to turn. Now I'm going to place a single crochet into the second of these double crochets, and then into the chain 1, and then 2 single crochets in the next double crochet, 2 single crochets into this double crochet, and then 1 single crochet into this double crochet stitch, 1 single crochet into this chain 1, and repeat. So that's 2 sets of 2 single crochets, 1 single crochet into a double crochet, and 1 single crochet into a chain 1 space. And that's how we're going to add our border to this decreasing edge. And again, you'll see it's helping us flatten out what was a bumpy edge. I'm almost done. And our border round is going to look a little bit different in our main point up at the top here, which will become the bottom of your bralette, but it's the top of what our project is right now. So I just placed my final 2 single crochet in this double crochet row. I'm going to place a single crochet in each of these double crochet and triple crochets of my final shell. In the chain 1, I'm going to place a single crochet, chain 1, and another single crochet into the next triple crochet and into the double crochet, 2 more single crochet into this chain 2, and then slip stitch into the first single crochet of this border round. Then you can fasten off, leaving a long tail, because we will use this long tail to sew our 2 cups together once we reach that point. So I'm leaving about 12 inches. You're going to repeat all of these steps to create your second half. I already created mine, so I can show you how they're going to sit. You'll see these border rounds when you position the 2 sides of your top are going to be, one is facing the wrong way, one is facing the right way. Don't worry about that because we still have another border round to finish around the entire top. So that will all be covered up. It's fine. Now we are going to sew together at this bottom point where we just created our triple crochet shell. We're going to sew these together to kind of secure the 2 sides of our top beyond just the straps that will be located here. The more secure you want your top, perhaps the more cleavage you have. If you want it to be a bit more coverage, you can sew up more. If you want it to be more open, if you have a smaller bust, if you want more cleavage showing, then you can sew up less. So I'm going to use the long tail that I left after I finished this border round, and I'm going to use that to sew. So I will flip so that my 2 pieces are on top of one another and that they're lined up perfectly so that my chain 1s are matching here. And you can even use stitch markers for this. I might do that so I can make sure I'm sewing into the right stitches. I am connecting my chain 1s so I can make sure that all my stitches are lined up. Great. And now I'm just going to sew. I don't do anything too fancy for the sewing portion. I just sew together through the parallel stitches on each side of my top. And I'm going to go down until I reach the chain 3 space. And there we go. I'm going to fasten and sew this end just so it's very secure. I like to go back and forth a few times when I'm securing my ends. And there we go. Now the bottoms are joined. So we're going to add a new point here in our final border round. We're going to go all the way around this project to have a nice, clean final border edge. And then we're going to add our straps here and our straps along the neck. And we'll create a separate waist tie to be woven through these ends so it can wrap around your back. So you can find which side you want to be the right side of your project. That's where you want to fasten on. I kind of want to hide the messier end of my sewing, so I am going to have this be the right side of my project. Again, one of your borders is going to be wrong side up. It's okay. Doesn't matter. And then these rows are alternating right and wrong side up, so it's okay that these look the same, you know. To begin our border round, I am going to slip stitch to fasten on to the rightmost bottom corner. This is what's going to become the bottom edge. Into the middle of my 3 single crochets that I placed in this corner here. I am fastening back on. And I'm just going to single crochet in each stitch. Pretty straightforward. So single crochet across this edge here until you reach your corner, what will become this point. I'm approaching where I sewed my 2 cups together. So I'm going to single crochet into each of the single crochets. And you have 2 stitches that were sewn together. In the first stitch that was sewn together, I'm going to half double crochet. In the actual space that was sewn together, so this is like the yarn that I used to sew, I'm going to go through that sewn part, and I'm going to double crochet. Then I'm going to picot, which is chain 3 and slip stitch into your first. I'm going to double crochet again into the sewed part here, into the single crochet where it was sewn to the other side. I'm going to half double crochet, and then into the next single crochet I'll continue to single crochet across, and that just gives us a cute little point here that kind of pulls together the shape. Then you're going to single crochet across this next edge until you reach your waistband side over here. I'm approaching the side of my waistband, this flat edge where I will weave my ties through, and I'm going to single crochet into the second single crochet of this 3 single crochet middle. Then I'm going to turn my work, and I'm going to slip stitch into the single crochets along this flat edge. And you can see it's just further reinforcing these spaces where we're going to weave our waistband tie through. So I slip stitched into the first single crochet of this chain, this 3 single crochet corner, and then I'm going to single crochet into the second of those 3 and single crochet into each single crochet along this next edge up until I reach this top point where we're going to add our neck strap. I'm approaching this top corner where I'm going to add my neck strap. And again, we had a 3 single crochet to turn. I'm going to single crochet into the first of those single crochets, single crochet into the second, the middle, and this is where I'm going to add my neck strap. So I'm going to chain 50. You could also chain 100 or 150 if you want this neck strap to go all the way over your shoulders and then become the waistband ties around your back. I am just going to chain 50 because I want it to tie around only my neck. And then I'm going to create a separate waistband tie by just chaining after everything else is done. So I am just going to chain 50, but you can chain your desired length and meet me back here once you've completed that. I just chained 50. Now I'm going to chain 1 and turn to slip stitch into each of these chains I just created, starting with the second chain from my hook. I'm slip stitching into each of these to reinforce the neck strap so it's a bit stronger. You could also single crochet, half double crochet if you want a thicker neck strap, but I like a thin neck strap, so I am just going to slip stitch. I'm slip stitching into my final chain, and now I'm back here where I placed my single crochet. I'm going to single crochet again into that middle single crochet, and then single crochet in each stitch along this next edge. I'm approaching where I sewed my 2 cups together. So once I reach the single crochet above the stitch sewn together, I am going to insert and pull through to begin a single crochet 2 together, including this stitch above my sewn stitch and this stitch above my sewn stitch on the other side. So single crochet 2 together, this stitch and this stitch. That's how that's going to look. And then continue to single crochet across this edge until I reach the second of the 3 single crochets up here, where I'm going to repeat my neck straps, single crochet into the middle single crochet, chain 50 or 150, whatever you created on your first side, chain 1 and single crochet along the chain, single crochet again into your middle single crochet along this edge, slip stitch along this edge, and slip stitch to reconnect to your first single crochet of this border round. I placed my final slip stitch, and now I'm going to slip stitch into the first single crochet of my round and fasten off. So here is how we are looking. We're getting close to being done. So at this point, I am going to chain my waistband strap. You can skip this step if you made your neck straps long enough to wrap around your waistband, but I am making mine separately. So I'm just going to chain about 24 to 36 inches to weave this strap through my waistband loops here. You can make it however long you need to accomplish that for you. I'm finishing up my waistband strap. Make these final chains pretty tight, and then fasten off. So now these are ready to use. I'll put this aside for now because we have one final step, and that is adding our straps in the middle here. So I'm going to use my stitch markers again to help me make sure I am placing my straps in the appropriate stitches on each side here. I am going to add one strap straight across, up a bit higher, and then I'm going to add two straps crossed on the bottom. So to do that, I am going to fasten on where I want my highest strap to sit. I think I kind of want the midpoint of my bust here. So that's about right here. I'm going to fasten on. And I'm going to fold my project over so I can mark the matching stitch on the other side. And that looks like right about here. And the reason I'm marking this stitch now is because I'm going to chain approximately what I think is the right length, plus maybe a few more chains, leave a long tail, and then I'm going to try my top on so I can have the strap be the perfect length for my body. Then I can frog or add a few more stitches before I slip stitch to attach it here. That way I don't accidentally create a strap that's too loose or too tight. So I'm going to make a strap here that I think is probably a bit longer than I'll need, just in case. And then I'm going to leave a nice long tail, and then I will attach this when I'm actually wearing my top so it is the perfect length. And I have my stitch marked so I can do that. I'm going to do the same for two more spots down here where I'm going to add my crossed ties. And I'm going to go maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches down from my highest strap. And I'm going to add another strap. That's probably more than enough. Fasten off. And I'll prep my final strap. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches down. And prep this final strap here. Now I'm going to make sure my stitches are marked for my other straps. Easier to do it on this side. So I'm going to use my stitch markers and count down 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now these stitches are marked. When I try on my top, I'll bring my hook with me and I will frog out however long I need and then slip stitch into the appropriate stitch. Then I will sew in all of my ends and then my top is done. And here is your finished top. I ended up going with 4 horizontal straps here. I just liked the look and the stability of that. I'm wearing pasties underneath. I'd recommend that for this top. It's a bit more see-through, or you can wear a lacy bralette, a bandeau. Here's how the back looks with the waistband loops. And there it is. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you want to see more like it, please like and subscribe to my channel. The more support I get from you all, the more time I can dedicate to making tutorials. So thank you so much for your support. I appreciate each of you, and happy crocheting.